Today on Doomed, the final debate of 2019 between the Democrats who are, well, I guess, left in this race. Well, not completely accurate. There's a few who didn't make the stage, but all of the frontrunners made their way to the debate stage tonight for the, the last hurrah of 2019. And we will break it all down for you tonight, right now, on Doomed. Let's get right to it because it's late. And I don't have any more of an intro prepared because it's a debate show. And you can hear him now. Here we go, folks. My guest for tonight. I'm so happy he's joining us. Let me pull him up on the screen. Benjamin Dixon of the... What's the name of your show again, Ben?
Benjamin Dixon Show.
The Benjamin Dixon Show. That's right. I was hoping you'd get that, and it wasn't going to be like, this guy didn't listen to the name of my show.
No. You're literally the first person I think that has done that joke, but it actually, it's late at night, so it was funny as hell to me. So
I'm actually shocked I'm the first person to do that. I thought it was going to be just another cornball Matt Binder attempt.
To be honest, because I'm creative in a lot of ways, but when it comes to naming a show or naming a company or something, I'm the worst. So I took 3 months trying to figure out a name. I was like, F it, just go with my name. So that's my struggle.
Listen, it's probably the smart move. Maybe I should have went with the Matt Binder Show here. I named it Doomed because originally this show was just covering, the far right and all the horrible shit going on with them. But, then right. the 2020 race ramped up and we got the Democratic debates. I mean, I guess looking at these debates, there's plenty of reasons to feel like we're all doomed. But
True story.
But let's jump right into this because I really want to get your feelings on tonight's debate, because I think this one, out of all the debates so far, this one was probably the hardest to pin down, because all the other debates, I feel like it was either a clear case of just like the debate format and the moderators just not working, or there was a clear, person who came out looking really bad, and maybe a few people who came out looking good, but there was always like a clear loser. But in this debate, I feel like, the moderators, they had their moments of overall crappiness, I guess you could say. But overall, right, it was probably the most substantive debate. And everyone, I feel like, minus maybe Tom Steyer and maybe BuddhaJ, depending on your feelings on him, came out looking good, or at least on the same level. So what are your feelings about this?
That's what made the debate so difficult, not in the sense of difficult to watch, but difficult because, Joe Biden didn't look as bad as he needs to look, right? Joe Biden kind of, maybe the bar is set so low for him that he can slide by, and maybe we just have low expectations set for him. So if he doesn't go up there and make a complete moron of himself, then he gets graded on a curve. But that's problematic when he would be the one going up against Donald Trump. I mean, if you can't say anything else about Donald Trump, he knows how to completely rattle, completely dismantle a debate stage, not in the sense of he's a good debater. He just breaks and violates every norm, every expectation. He just does whatever the hell he wants to do. And Joe Biden is the last person who needs to be up there, mainly because Joe just doesn't have the wherewithal to handle Donald Trump. So the fact that the debate stage was pretty flat tonight, nobody stood out. Nobody had an entirely miserable night. I did enjoy the dunking on Pete Buttigieg. He earned it, and everybody took turns. Everybody took turns. I mean, and even Amy Klobuchar, she came back and dunked again on him. And again, I'm like, it's like, he's dead. Leave him alone. You know the meme? He's already dead.
Right. I tweeted in that moment that I was like, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but go Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah. Like she's got some real twisted stuff going on with her. Like, her sense of humor is the worst, and she's like extremely mean to her staffers. But in that moment, I was like, I'm really glad it's you. I'm glad it's you because, if anybody would ruthlessly gut Pete Buttigieg, it would be Amy Klobuchar. So yeah, go Amy in that moment.
Now
But
here,
no further though.
right. Now here's something I want to. We'll get back to that moment everyone dunking on Pete because it was really one of the best moments. But you bring up something that's really interesting to me that I want to talk about. That's sort of been a theme throughout this debate season so far, and it's something that I've never really seen in previous primary races before. And it's this new. I don't know if it's just like I guess they feel like this is how the Dem base feels, so that's why they're doing this. But there is a real. There's a real motivation from everyone on that stage to sort of not go on the attack too hard. It's like they're afraid they're going to, because I guess they've seen what happened to people who did go on the attack. Kamala went after Biden early on in those debates, and she tanked after that. Castro had that moment where he was sort of mean for calling out Biden for sort of being out of it when he talks, and that sort of made him tank too. It's really bizarre that people are just not going at each other for some substantive reasons too. I'm not talking about just like yelling at each other for the hell of it. I mean, literally, they're afraid to criticize each other's policies.
So you know what, and not to go too off on a tangent about this, but I think part of it is the fact that there's not a lot of sincerity on that stage, and when you anger is an art form, right? You know that now doing your show, you've been doing your show for a while, you know that, you have genuine anger, but you also have to know how to control that anger and how to deliver that anger and how to make it just enough so that it's palatable. But the core of that anger has to be sincerity. There's a lot of phoniness on that stage, man. And so when I don't think any of them have capacity, maybe one or two, Bernie being one of them, has the capacity to convey that anger in a way that is received versus as contrived. That's what I think. So I don't think they have the skill set nor the sincerity to actually be angry. The problem is we need angry, right? People are upset. Donald Trump is going to be angry. Everybody's base is angry, and you have to be able to go toe to toe with Donald Trump. This is not a season for kumbaya whatsoever.
Right, absolutely. And but even Bernie, again, not to harp on this too much, but even Bernie, even when he goes after Biden for legitimate things Biden voted for or policies he supported, he always feels like he needs to point out that, and I'm friends with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's my friend. It's like, listen, man, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that.
Nah, just gut the dude. Like, gut him and leave him out there. Like, you got to get these people out the paint. Like, for instance, Pete Buttigieg, he's a dangerous candidate, in my opinion. Not because I think he's going to win, but because of his real laser-like focus on closing the Overton window. After all the years of work, the crazy left Twitter we've been doing, expanding the Overton window, he's insisting on the most progressive idea is to be moderate. Right. That's his entire positioning. Right. And so for me, him being the dangerous person that he is, somebody needs to go through with a haymaker, politically speaking, and just finish him and get him off the stage. And with people holding back, except for Amy Klobuchar, because, she's got that hate running through her blood. But besides her, everyone holding back and trying to be nice and be polite, that's not going to get somebody out of this. This is a fight. This is an MMA fight. You got to break some jaws, politically speaking. And you can't do that when you're always trying to, suggest, oh, yeah, they're my friends and my colleagues. Nah, you ain't my colleague. You're my rival and you're wrong. Get the hell off the stage.
Absolutely. And, like you brought up, Buttigieg is the real danger. Biden, this is the last time we're ever going to deal with Biden. After this race, Biden's gone. It's it. That's it. We got to beat him now, but that's it. Biden will be gone. Buttigieg, if this guy takes off somehow, even if he doesn't win, if he just develops some sort of base within the party, we'll be dealing with this guy for the next 40 years.
For the rest of my life. Like, I don't know how young you are. You're probably, 20, in your 20s. So definitely for the rest of my life, maybe we get some good health care and I could live a little bit longer. But that's the problem. Like, Buttigieg represents a base in the Democratic Party that wants to be socially liberal, and when they say social conservatives, economic conservatives, it's catering to the status quo, right? And he is bringing a brand new breath of fresh air. He's Clinton all over again, not Hillary. He's Bill Clinton all over again. In fact, he's actually worse than that. He's Reagan all over again, just with a couple of, socially liberal policies. And the fact that he's so young, the thing about, here's what's great about it. Everybody else in his age group are lower. I mean, the vast majority of us, like, we've had a hard go at this thing. Like, we've been fighting and struggling, scratching and surviving for a long time. So he doesn't represent this generation. The thing is, though, we have to make sure that the people and the sentiment and the politics of this generation, that we get in power, that we get into the influential positions, because he could be an outlier for our generation and still have an outsized impact because of exactly what you said. He's in the party. He has a base. He has a platform, and he can really screw us up for a very long time.
Right, definitely. And just to note, I really appreciate you thinking I'm in my 20s. I'm not that much older, but I'm 33.
Okay.
But
yeah, you're still a young man. You're still a young man.
But no, that's a perfect point, and it's something that really is funny to me because the folks that do like BuddhaJudge, these older, wealthier white people who really are big fans of his, they constantly sort of bring up that it's time to give the next generation a shot. That's one of their reasons for liking BuddhaJudge, because of how young he is. And I mean, if you want to give the next generation a shot, you give the majority of the next generation the shot by going with the candidate they support, because there's a reason they support him. But that just sort of flies right over their head. I mean, I guess they don't really, giving the next generation the chance isn't about giving one guy from the next generation a chance.
Right. No, but that's intentional, right? Like, that's intentional obtuseness. They have a vested interest in making sure that the person that they pick from our generation is going to protect their dividends, is going to protect their 401ks, and especially when they're probably, I have to really find some data on how much of the Democratic donor base, we'll probably never get the exact numbers, but how much of their money is coming from healthcare, because the number one thing that Pete Buttigieg has picked on to attack is to push us away from Medicare for all. So my thinking is that the Democratic donor base probably has a tremendous amount of wealth tied up in the healthcare industry.
Right. And let's go to that actually, because, I wasn't going to bring it up yet because it's not, but it was a major moment in the debate. So let's get to it. The most passionate I've seen Biden this year was that moment tonight when he decided he was going to attack Bernie Sanders on Medicare for all. I've never seen him so fiery. I've never seen him so, so he told Bernie Sanders to put his hand down. He was like full blown on the attack. And it's just, he was basically yelling, better things aren't possible, damn it. Like, it was
exactly.
It was like, that's what makes you, like, it's one thing to go up there. I disagree with you completely, but it's one thing to go up there and be that moderate who goes, listen, be a wonderful thing to do this for everybody, but this, and this are why I think it's not possible. Again, completely disagree, wrong-headed, dangerous as well, but to go up there with such passion and fight against that is just like, buddy, who are you fighting for? Like, why are you so angry about this?
But here's the thing about, and this is probably going to be a thing that I'm wrong on. So I want to preface it by saying I think I'm wrong, but I have to consider it. I think the passion that I saw there was sincere, and I think he's sincerely wrong. I think Pete Buttigieg is calculating and intentionally wrong, and he knows what he's telling us is a lie. I feel like Joe Biden really believes that it's impossible to do this, and he's super passionate about that. He's dead wrong regardless. But if you ask me between Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, I probably would jump out the window. But if I had to pick, it would be Joe Biden, because I feel like there's a level of sincerity there that Pete Buttigieg is the exact opposite. I think Buttigieg is calculating. I think he's cold with his calculations. I think he's opportunistic. I think he will say whatever needs to be said in the moment, which is why he got caught up on that question on the Afghanistan war. He tried to give Barbara Lee her credit, as well as say, but we had to go. That's because he's so used to saying whatever needs to be said in the moment, and that's the very worst type of politician. So in terms of Joe Biden, I think he was sincere, but just sincerely wrong.
Right, right. And I gotta say, you are the king of the segues here because you just perfectly brought up the Barbara Lee thing, which was next I wanted to talk about. You know,
I've been doing this for a little while. I'm joking.
and I completely agree with you that if I had to pick between Biden and Buttigieg, easily Biden. Again,
Yeah.
we'll be dealing with him for a lot less time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but although there is one positive to maybe Buttigieg over Biden, and that is we need to just get a few leftists to somehow make a ton of money over the next year, and then he might be able to be swayed. He might.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we should talk to Chapo and tell him to send him a couple donations or something.
Chapo, we just need you to somehow convince
Come on,
some
man.
Silicon Valley investors to invest in your podcast because I'm
Exactly.
sure they didn't even. I'm sure we know how much they make. That ain't even enough to satiate Buttigieg. I'll tell
Exactly,
you.
exactly, exactly. But they do it, in terms of that's the struggle over here on the left, man. That's the struggle, but that's a whole different show, man. The
Right,
struggle of
right.
of media and money. But go ahead, you were saying with the other thing.
Right.
Now I've lost my place. Go
No, it's
ahead.
all good. So the Barbara Lee Afghanistan vote was really something stunning to behold because on one hand, and this is one of those things where unfortunately this would be like a major thing people picked up on to
Mhm.
understand just how different the candidates are. But because of what it's on, it's something that's it involves the Afghanistan war, which already a number of people in this country just don't give a shit about, unfortunately.
Right.
It involves someone having the moral clarity to see where things were going and to stand up and be not even just one of the few, the one to vote
Hmm.
against it. Again, something people don't care about. They would call this purity politics if it was if Barbara Lee was running for president.
Right.
Um, she voted against the Afghanistan war. And now that was a very hard vote at that time. I mean, you could find people, again, not many, but you could find a few people who voted against the Iraq war.
Right.
Not many, to vote against the Afghanistan war. And now Buttigieg gives Barbara Lee props tonight for that vote, but then goes ahead and says, but we had to
But
go
we
there
had
anyway,
to go.
which is really something. If you just this, everyone needs to just stop for a second and really just take this in. They need to just stop and take in the fact that this guy just gave Barbara Lee props for having the clarity to make that very hard vote, and then
Yeah.
he essentially says, "But I believe she was wrong." And then on the other
That
side,
exactly.
but then on the other side, you have Bernie Sanders, who and I have never seen this happen on the debate stage before. Maybe it has happened before, but it's a very rare thing. The guy says this was a gotcha thing too, because it started with Bernie coming out bringing up Biden's vote for the Iraq war and Bernie's vote against
Yeah.
it, and the moderators. It's a good follow up. But again, it's not really the same thing for the reasons I just mentioned. The moderator brings up but Bernie voted for the Afghanistan war.
Right.
And Bernie brings up how Barbara Lee was the only person to vote against the Afghanistan war and how she got it right and he
Hmm.
got it wrong. Now,
Yeah.
how many times just this year have other candidates and other moderators went after another candidate, Biden, for example, to get them to basically admit that they were wrong at something? And they just refuse to admit it. And then Bernie Sanders just unprompted, just says, Barbara Lee was right and I was wrong on this issue. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
No. Oh,
not
sorry. Go
something you
ahead.
see usually. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was a rare occasion. That was a magnanimous moment, and I'm not saying that because Bernie is one of my favorites up there. It's because you just never really see it, and there's power in the question at the end of the show. Because it was a show. The question at the end of the debate
Right.
was ridiculous. Like, what would you ask forgiveness for? Or what? But there's something when you actually just display that, like when you
Right.
unprompted display, yeah, I got something wrong, guys, and so I have no problem admitting that. The thing is that we don't value that. The politicians don't value that. Not a single, unless, watch this. This is what you're gonna find happening, Matt. If that polls well, if the news media is talking about that, then the next debate, every motherfucker's gonna be up there apologizing for some shit, man. So that's the stuff that I hate. But at least Bernie was able to demonstrate the power of that, and I love the way you juxtapose that right next to Buttigieg, who tried to get the best of both worlds, where he'll say, "Yeah, she was right, but also I was right, so nobody was right." Nah, it doesn't work like that.
Your point about the forgiveness question and coming in the same debate is such a good point to make, because like you put it, you have a question that basically forces someone to say something like that, and
Right.
it was pointed out, and it's something to something to be aware of, is that in that question they had a choice of asking for forgiveness or giving someone a gift, and it was only Warren and Klobuchar who asked for forgiveness, the two women on stage,
Women, yeah.
and the guys were the ones who gave who bestowed a gift. And I thought Bernie's framing of it was really good in terms of how the gift is everyone basically on the stage, for, basically having the ability to beat Trump. But yeah, it's really something to see the fact that there's a forgiveness question, and then there's just the act of asking for, coming out and saying you were wrong, and it's how it's just gonna go. Besides this show and what you and me talking about this right now, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter how it's gonna. It's not gonna. There's not gonna be a poll to see if it polls well, and there's not gonna be that fictional scenario of everyone coming out
Yeah.
and apologizing, because no one beyond us right now is gonna talk about it. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
not gonna be a mainstream question.
You know, be, exactly that, man, because it's not salacious, right? It's not going to drive the clicks. Everyone is going to talk about the moments that people yelled at each other. And to be quite frank with you, man, like there was a certain point, I think it was the exchange between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, that I just started to tune out, because and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to appeal towards civility, because like F civility, because we have a fight on our hands. But at a certain level of time of night, when everyone is just yelling, the media wants that so that they can have the sound bites. But for the rest of us, it's like it's overkill. And so that's the problem, right? The audience, I think the consumer really can handle a higher level of discourse. It's that what drives the media is the salaciousness, and that's exactly why they won't talk about that moment. I think I agree with you. Nobody else is going to talk about that in a meaningful way.
Now we talked about the everyone basically beating up on Buttigieg, rightly so. There was just an extra moment in there though I want to discuss, because I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It really showed you just who the candidates think is their biggest competition, and there was a moment in that whole everyone jumping on Buttigieg that started off the whole thing basically, and it was Warren and Pete going at each other
Yeah.
for Pete's wine cave fundraiser.
Right. Right.
And Warren, in my view, and again, this is my politics and where I come from it, Warren easily won that exchange. But at the same time, there's going to be a subset of people who thought that Mayor Pete's point that he's the only non-millionaire on stage, so how dare she say that to him when she's got the millions of dollars or whatever. It's a bizarre sort of attack line, but at the same time, when you look at the polling and you see people's second choices, it's weird to see Buttigieg so high on the list of some Warren supporters' second choice, and I think that's sort
That's
of where
interesting.
that's sort of where that battle was going. And I've seen actually that the reason Warren is sort of falling is because her supporters who were swayed by Buttigieg jumped on Pete, and that's where the Pete surge came from too. So
Interesting.
yeah, I'm not sure how much could be attributed to that, but it's certainly they certainly think that, because the two of them were at each other's throat during that exchange.
And I think the way I interpreted it from almost the very first debate, I saw there was a level of animosity that Pete Buttigieg has towards Elizabeth Warren that he doesn't demonstrate anywhere else. He doesn't target anyone else with that level of antipathy. And I wonder how much of it is rooted in the data, like you just outlined, because without question, Pete Buttigieg would most certainly get up there and just strategically do what he does. But it still just comes off so petty to me. It comes off like he has a personal vendetta against her,